What's up, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more Duran Duran, and we're back with some more live Duran Duran. Once again, shout out to Adam for making the concert at Madison Square Garden, 1984, available. It's interesting, I was looking at the concerts from '84. The one from the Oakland Coliseum has most of the tracks that were included on Arena, and ultimately it's basically the same playlist as the Arena album. The Madison Square Garden performance has more tracks, and while it does feature most of the ones from Arena, there are also a wider variety, or a larger number, I should say, of tunes that are not included on the Oakland performance or Arena. So I'm intrigued why that concert was expanded. Now, granted, Madison Square Garden, when it comes to, venues in the US for music acts, that's about as big as you get. Certainly it's one of the very top tier. So it makes sense to me that they might do an extra special performance for, the Big Apple, so to speak. But yeah, I am intrigued by that. So I mentioned I wanted to try to look for some tunes, live performances that are not included on Arena. Another one is Looking for Cracks in the Pavement. Is that the, I'm trying to remember it, because it's like parenthetical. I'm looking for, that's right. I'm looking for cracks in the pavement, with the I'm looking for in parentheses, and then cracks in the pavement being the formal unparenthetical part of the, or non-parenthetical part of the title. So yeah, I enjoyed this tune from Seven and the Ragged Tiger, '83. In a way, I've come to hear it kind of like as a transitional tune. In a way, it sounds like some of the stuff on Rio, and they're also on the album that it comes from, Seven and the Ragged Tiger. But in a way, I can kind of hear marching towards sounds that we'll hear in like the mid-'80s with them on Notorious. And yeah, ultimately it just feels like a tune that has a bit of the early flavor and a bit of the flavor that they were sort of heading toward. It's a sort of, it's a bit slower. It's not like a super energetic tune, but it has a groove to it. And yeah, it's got an interesting flavor. So I'm curious to hear how this live performance will sound. Admittedly, it's only 1 year after Seven and the Ragged Tiger came out, so I imagine it'll be pretty much a similar sound as the album version, but ultimately, I understand that they do special bits, they extend songs, they bring in sort of extra instruments or backup singers, so I am curious to hear how close it will sound to the studio version, and once again, I am keen to hear some tunes that perhaps are maybe not performed live anymore, and were, part of like supporting a particular album, whereas over time maybe it's only the hits from that album that end up staying in the track list. So yeah, I'm keen to hear this tune. Let's find out. This is I'm Looking For Cracks in the Pavement by Duran Duran, heard live in 1984 at Madison Square Garden.
Now, if there's anybody out here in the audience who's ever taken a very long walk home in the dark one evening, all alone, when there's no street lights, then you know what the meaning of being frightened is, maybe. Frightened of the unknown. This is a story.
So it's like Iron Maiden's Fear of the Dark?
He gets stuck out late one night, decides to walk home. And halfway home he gets the dreadful feeling that he's being followed.
It really is.
Now he won't look behind him, and he won't run. He's so scared, he just wants to hide and slip down the cracks in the pavement.
As the party was about to begin, I'm like she's always better for tonight. How about nights when I should be feeling just right? Don't wanna be in public, my head is full of jokes that I don't like it. Something on my mind is moving up the doors. I see the door. Something on my mind makes me run when I know I'm running too far.
I don't think that. I don't think that's in the original like that.
I said somebody's shaking my cheek. Maybe that's somebody is me. I'm standing in the line that I'm making a break from the shadows of the cinema wall.
singing like really sharp, like.
I see love before, something on my mind. Makes me run when I go, I'm going too far. Something on my mind is bringing up the thoughts. I see love before, something on my mind. It makes me run when I thought I'd run too far.
And again, like, part of that was sounding more mid-80s Duran, but this part felt kind of that new wave Duran of the earlier sound.
Something on my mind. It's
Filthy guitar.
I see love before. Something on my mind. Makes me run when I go. I'm running too long. Something on my mind is bringing up the thoughts. I see love before. Something on my mind makes me run when I go. I'm running too long.
Tunes I've done from this 84 concert. I am noticing Andy's guitar. Yeah, it's really cool. Again, obviously, crowd just going ballistic for early 80s Duran. Yeah, it's really cool. Again, it did feel a bit different. It felt like a bit more funky, a bit more of, like I said, sort of a flavor that I think comes to fuller fruition by the time they get to Notorious, which obviously that's on the other side of their sort of, hey, let's do some side projects and some of us will come back and so on. But yeah, ultimately, I enjoyed that. And like I said, there was a couple moments where I felt like, okay, this is kind of reminding me early 80s Duran, but most of that gave me a sort of more mid, moving into the second half of the 80s Duran type of flavor. Let me know if you disagree. Again, I'm sort of new to this game, although I have been listening to them for a few months now, so like inevitably my brain is trying to like kind of make connections and sort of like, you know, get a sense of what I hear. I mentioned when I was going through Pop Trash, I was like, man, like I can feel that Midazoland is not too far behind them at this point. Some of the sounds in this album, like, they sort of give me that sort of vibe. So again, as I go through the material, inevitably my brain is thinking about them more in chronological time. But yeah, cool performance. As I said, a couple moments, it felt like Simon's delivery was a bit like sharp and kind of sort of like forceful rather than his kind of like normal, kind of, not normal, I know he does different things, but it wasn't so much that kind of like golden, bendy, sort of like floating with the melody, but it was more like, you know, hitting the notes and hitting them with some power. So very cool. Yeah, let me know what you think of this one. As I said, I'm going to probably, I guess, focus on this one for the 84 concerts. Again, I'm going to go back to the 89 concerts. I did want to mention again, Johnny had said that there was a performance of Rio in Rio, but I don't think it's on the Rio concert that I have access to, but there are more interesting tunes on both that one and the San Diego concert, which is 87. And what was I saying? I said 89. That was the one at the Apollo in Manchester. I meant 88, which is in Rio, and then, as I said, San Diego 87. Trying to keep everything in the front view screen, not always easy, but more live Duran is essentially the bottom line of what I am saying. Do let me know what you think of this performance. I will see you next time. Peace.